practice. And we're going to be talking about the component of the partnership module on building communities of practice at the state level. So if you just identify yourself.
Sure. Jeff Zibelman from IU5, which is, I'm part of the PAIU, Pennsylvania Intermediate Unit Special Education Program.
Great.
Catherine Poggi, Patton, Pittsburgh.
Connell O'Brien, I represent the Pennsylvania Community Providers Association.
I'm Christina Ager from Arcadia University.
So I'd like to start by talking about the community framework that we've created in the IDA partnership, a four-component model surrounded by the infrastructure of the community of practice. And what I'd like to talk with you about as community members is one of those quadrants in that framework, which we call leading by convening. And this is one of the things that we're really talking to state agencies about in terms of a new way to approach a relationship with the field and to create the relationships which might open doors that otherwise would not be open as we do this work. So I'd like to start with this idea of leading by convening. And you know, first of all, let's just talk about what that actually might mean to you. I mean, when you hear that phrase, leading by convening, what comes to mind when you hear that?
Leading by convening to me, it means in this setting to be able to hear from lots of different people's point of views. That normally, when you're in one area, for example, I'm in special education, we're providing services and programs to school districts, we don't hear what, you know, the concerns maybe from behavioral health or the concerns from the Department of Welfare. So it's nice to be able to have an avenue to hear that. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think about when I think about leading by convening is then being able to take this information and go back to my teams, special ed directors in my area, special ed supervisors in my area, superintendents in my area, agencies that I work with, and share this information with me. So I think it's a great way of getting information out there, and you know, just being able to share that all.
Kathy?
I agree. I think it's just the convergence of so many different talents, so many different resources, different experiences and exposures, and you can really try to process and problem solve to get to a common denominator, which is that ultimate goal. It's a great way to brainstorm and see what else is out there.
So it sounds like you're saying that it's the multiple perspectives that where the strength is.
I think so. Mm-hmm. I think so. It opens your perspective to other areas, and it allows you to hear about other experiences that maybe weren't in the lens that you initially thought.
I think the importance for me of convening and leading by convening really has to do with an understanding that in human services, whether it's health or education or social services, so much of what drives change is relationships. And so the ability to initiate relationships, particularly with other systems, as Jeff described, you know, we often come with language and experience and mindset as professionals from our particular vantage point. The first step then is developing a relationship, and the first step to developing a relationship is to convene, is to sit down at the table together and begin to share the perspectives and then solve the problems.
I think adding to that idea of both, you know, multiple voices and relationship development is the idea that by convening and by, as a leader, you know, saying that this group of people is an important group of people to solve a problem, then you're forming a different foundation than we have currently. Currently, I think the foundation is much more siloed, and we tend to solve problems, you know, within those silos, or we invite people in. But to really, you know, for me, to lead by convening means to shift the focus from, you know, a siloed rather than to a shared perspective of, actually, we're a group, and, we're gonna do this together. And that could have, positive ripple effects, I think, for how people view their own individual agency and then the shared problems we have.
Now, building on something that Christina said, one of the things that we have talked about in the communities of practice is that leading by convening allows you to honor the work that might have gone on in separate arenas. And so can we talk a little bit about that? From your experience, do people generally look around and see who else has done something? Is that typically a way that people behave? Is it a way that you'd like to see them behave?
I think normally it's not a way that you find people behaving. I think, we're so caught up in getting things completed and our projects done, and we tend to just, like as you said, have that siloed kind of a view of things. But in this way, in this atmosphere, you can't do that. There's everybody is at the table, so it's not possible. You do need to recognize what other people are saying and realize that's just as important.
I agree. I think there might be theoretical impressions, but I think also you're going to call upon experiences of the group, and maybe they have done something that is in a corollary or a related area, and how did that work, and which weeks, what problem solvings can we stem from? So I think it steps out of the silo approach and it allows more experiential and collaboration to arise.
Yeah. One of the things that we've heard people say is that when the work that has gone on under another name or under another initiative is not recognized, that there are some consequences, not always positive consequences. I think, have you seen that? Does anyone like to speak to some of the examples of, of when that kind of thing does occur?
I think as we look at sort of the negative attitudes that folks in one silo will begin to develop about all of the other folks and all the other silos, there is a tendency to wish that everybody was as smart and committed and energized as the people in my silo. And when you convene a group with folks representing the other silos, the other groups, the other systems, what you find is they're smart, they're passionate, they're as committed, and they're working as hard, and they often want very similar outcomes, and they want to solve a lot of the same problems as everybody else in the room. And so what begins to dissolve are the prejudices and the attitudes that often we begin to develop when we're just with our own folks all of the time and struggling to solve things and feeling like, well, if only everybody else would join in. And when you sit down together, what you find is, that's a shared agenda, and then you begin to work on it from that perspective.
There's also,
Please.
There's also, I think, an aspect, as you were speaking, around the idea of cross-training. So we learn a lot from each other, and we learn, like I'm in special ed, but I learn a lot from, sitting at the table with people from mental health, from, technical assistance, from different community agencies. And that cross-training, I think, can be really valuable, not just in the perspective that other people are in this with us, and have areas of expertise, as folks were saying, but also I know more then, and I become stronger, I become more able to see clearly from a number of perspectives rather than just my own.
So if we think about the skills that are going to be required in learning to lead by convening, what would you say for